What's up, YouTube? Dan the Pokemon here, continuing on with the Pokemon Generation Retrospective. Today, in Part 3, we're going to be covering and viewing Gen 6 and 7 of Pokemon, mostly focusing on the 3DS era. So, let's get right on into it. Okay, now we get to talk about Gen 6. Gen 6 is hands down the generation of missed or wasted potential. Gen 6 began with the release of the Nintendo 2DS, the console that is just like a 3DS, but no longer folds like a clamshell and lacks the 3D functionality. This was due to the 3D supposedly causing too much eye strain and several parents refusing to allow children to buy this. I know this because my brother and I were those kids, so of course when the 2DS came out the same day as the new Pokemon games, our parents had no reasonable objections to purchasing. I still have my red 2DS to this day, along with my special Diamond and Pearl DS. This gen starts off with X and Y and are the first mainline Pokemon games to be played in full 3D, from the overworld to the battles. The new things added in X and Y are trainer customization, where for the first time since Battle Revolution, we can get new clothes, outfits, hairstyles, eye color, and more to fully customize our player character. New battle modes are the short-lived Sky Battles, only capable with some flying Pokemon, or Pokemon that can fly, and Horde Battles, something unique to Gen 6, where 5 wild Pokemon spawn at once, sometimes with rivals entering instead. EV training can be made easier thanks to the Super Training mode. Adding friend codes will add new mons to the Friend Safari in the post-game. And of course, the elephants in the room. Gen 6 introduces a new type, the Fairy type, with moves and mons being updated to now include this type as another way to check Dragon Pokemon. The total Pokemon has gone up to 721 in Kalos, with the smallest gen of new mons to this point, due to the inclusion of a new gameplay feature: Mega Evolutions. Yes, some Pokemon can now briefly evolve during battle, gaining more stats, different types, abilities, and overall just being more powerful. These pretty much break the game, as there are very few trainers that actually Mega Evolve their Pokemon, being only a select few. Meaning, once you get access to this and are given a free Lucario that can Mega Evolve, the game that was already insanely easy becomes an even easier cakewalk. If you lose to any gym in X and Y or to the Elite Four, you just suck at Pokemon. There's no way around it. These games are too easy. Yeah, X and Y are some of the easiest Pokemon games ever. Nothing presents a challenge until you get to the cheating battle facility and the battle mason, and even then there's a lot of wasted potential. Pokemon Ami is a new feature that lets you directly feed and care for your Pokemon, adding in a new stat of love. This feature is something I would have loved to have had in earlier Pokemon games, as you can play, pet, and feed your Pokemon, really leaning into the feeling that these mons are actually your pets. However, doing this breaks the game, as this will allow your mon to survive hits that would knock it out, recover from status ailments at random, increase the odds of doing a critical hit, and gaining more EXP per battle. The EXP share now also gives EXP to the whole party, meaning it is very easy to become quickly overleveled. Writable Pokemon were teased. However, the feature is extremely lackluster and limited to certain areas at most. And HMs are still a thing, although there are once again only 5 now, being Cut, Fly, Surf, Strength, and Waterfall, with Rock Smash as a TM usable in just a single area. The post-game is severely lacking. Several events within the game are within the game data that are teased that just never happened or never got implemented, and there is a lot of cut data and info. It seems like nearly half of the region got scrapped. Multiple legendaries and mythicals feel like they have no place in the world or region. They are just given out as gifts with no purpose other than being rare due to being event only, or just kind of existing in the world somewhere. The version exclusives even apply to the new megas, as some of the mega stones are version exclusive. X has the version exclusives of Mega Charizard X, the Staryu line, Pinsir, Mega Mewtwo X, the Houndour line, the Poochyena line, the Aron line, the Lileep line, the Anorith line, Sawk, the Swirlix line, the Clauncher line, and Xerneas. Y gets Mega Charizard Y, the Shellder line, the Ammonite and Kabuto lines, Mega Mewtwo Y, Heracross, the Larvitar line, the Electrike line, the Purloin line, Throw, the Spritzy line, the Scrap line, and Yveltal. To really make matters worse, several of the Mega Stones are version exclusives to the game that doesn't have the Mon or the Evolution line. And to make matters worse, connectivity to prior gens is now done via subscription. Yeah, the other big elephant in the room is Pokémon Bank, a subscription service to store more Pokémon. This is the only official way to move Pokémon from Gen 5 to Gen 6, and then also becomes the only way to move Mons from Gen 6 to Gen 7, and to move them later, which will be discussed later. There were events for the bank as well, with some Pokemon such as additional starters and Celebi. When the Nintendo eShop announced its closure, Pokemon Bank became free to download and use in order to not prevent future access, but is now gone forever unless you already downloaded it or resort to shenanigans. Then, matters get worse with the remakes of Ruby and Sapphire, Omega Ruby, and Alpha Sapphire. Hoenn gets remade in 3D with all of the updates and quality of life changes, but at the same time strips so much away. Player customization is gone. Contests and Pokeblocks have been overhauled and are now significantly easier. 7 of the 8 HMs return, with Flash being cut. The National Pokédex is now received prior to beating the Pokémon League, meaning non-Hoenn Pokémon will start showing up in the wild and trainers will have updated teams. Mega Evolution has been expanded with new Mega Fights and new Mega Mons, along with the primal forms of Grouter and Kyogre. Areas have been updated for better and for worse, like Granite Cave now requiring a bike in order to reach the lower levels to catch Aron and Mawile or Sableye. Nosepass is still kinda obtuse to obtain. Mauville City has now been reworked to be more like an indoor mall. Latios or Latias gets foisted upon us very early on. Each version is back to only having Team Magma or Team Aqua. A new post-game has been added in the Delta episode, giving importance to Rayquaza, and providing a non-event encounter with Deoxys for the first time in a mainline game. However, there is a huge missed opportunity to have included the Battle Frontier. Instead, we just get the Battle Mazen from X and Y. The Battle Frontier was cut due to too many mobile games and shorter attention spans. Once the Latios or Latias can Mega Evolve, we can fly all over Hoenn in a manual controlled flight, which is actually kinda cool. And there are special locations to get more items, Pokemon, and even legendaries. And the new Megas introduced in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire aren't compatible with X and Y. Yeah, so much of this generation has a ton of wasted potential. Pointless legendaries, clearly cut content, backpedaling on loved expansions like trainer customization. This gen is such a mixed bag plagued with so much missed and squandered potential, it's crazy. Then, shortly before the release of Gen 7, Pokemon Go came out. My picks for this gen are X and Omega Ruby. Also, this is the first time the GTS lets you search for any mon you wanted even if you hadn't seen it. As a spin-off, Pokemon Go is another attempt by Nintendo to get people out and moving. The release of Pokemon Go was crazy. Everyone was playing it and losing their minds. It felt weird having the Gen 1 Pokemon with all the updates of typing. Some Pokemon were just too rare, and some Pokemon are locked to specific locations in the world. Yeah, it's all just weird and fun. For a time, though, there wasn't much else to do beyond catching mons and maybe battling some gyms. There was no trading, and to evolve a single mon, you really had to grind, catching dozens, sometimes hundreds of them. The game launched in a barely functional state in my opinion, but has since gotten better despite dozens of Pokemon still not being included. During the time of Gen 8, Pokemon Go also gained the functionality to transfer Pokemon from Go to use in other games, so the connectivity and availability have increased, meaning some mons like Mew and Celebi are more readily available than ever before. However, I still despise raids and the idea that Pokemon can be so tough that they are impossible to take down alone, and I wish raids were removed from Pokemon in their entirety. On to Gen 7. Gen 7 launched on the 3DS with Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. Each game now has a twist where Sun uses the normal day-night cycle, while Moon is 12 hours ahead, essentially reversing day and night. Alola also introduced us to the idea of regional variants, alternate takes of already existing mons that develop differently in other regions. The evil team of Team Skull seems to really emulate Team Rocket in the early days, and just being pests who want to steal Pokemon. The game focuses a lot more on story with a ton of cutscenes, and this gen's gimmick is Z-moves. Special one-time moves that a Pokemon can use once per battle to gain stats, deal massive damage, or both. These necessitate that your Pokemon holds a particular Z crystal and can turn the tides of battle in your favor. This game also eschews the typical Pokemon formula of getting gym badges. Instead, you have the island challenges, which vary from finding items to taking photos of mons, usually culminating in a battle against a very powerful totem Pokemon, a larger than normal Pokemon that can also summon assistants. That's right, a new battle mechanic has Pokemon cry out for help to summon allies, turning the fight into a 2-on-1 against you. Then, in order to proceed to the next island, you must defeat the island Kahuna. Unfortunately, Gen 7 began the trend of our rival character now always choosing the starter that is weak to our own. And How is the absolute worst. It's nice having the funnily edgy Gladion as a decent foil to Hal, but Hal sucks and sucks the life out of the game. And of course, there's the game's twist being that the Aether Foundation, the supposed good people, are actually evil villains who attempt to bring in the Ultra Beasts, special non-Pokemon that come from an alternate dimension. The fight against Lucamine towards the end gets pretty crazy, and some of the 3DS cutscenes are just wild. Once the Elite Four are beaten, the region's professor will challenge us using the fully evolved third starter. During the game, we'll also be on the lookout for Zygarde cells, adding new forms and some moves to Zygarde. Yeah, the fact that there was no Pokemon Z and so much missing from Kalos was just weird. Sun and Moon also get the unique transformation of Ash Greninja via an event, showing more favoritism of certain Mons. During the post-game, we also get visits from Red and Blue, along with access to another Battle Tower variant, the Battle Tree. Although some cool things here is that when certain streaks are hit, other notable trainers will appear to battle. And all of the previous Mega Evolutions have returned, though they are only available in the post-game, which is just too cool. Even the primal forms are still here. The post-game also opens up the quest of hunting down the Ultra Beast, and get a teaser of the legendary Necrozma, who is just kind of there. The version exclusives are Sun getting the Alolan Vulpix line, the Cranidos line, the Turtoga line, the Cottony line, the Rufflet line, Passimian, Turtonator, Solgaleo, Buzzswole, and Kartana. Moon gets the Alolan Sandshrew line, the Shieldon line, the Arcan line, the Petalo line, the Vullaby line, Oranguru, Drampa, Lunala, Pheromosa, and Celesteela. There are also some good trades here in Alola, such as Trade Evolve Mons and Special Mons. And of course, one of my personal favorite features of any Pokemon game, the Poképelago. After getting about a third of the way through the game, we gain access to the Poképelago. The Pokemon in our boxes don't just sit there in cyberspace doing nothing. No, we basically get to put them on a ranch where they get to do things for themselves and for us. The first island is where we get Pokebeans for Pokemon and me, and they're used as currency to get more islands and upgrade them. This island can also attract wild Pokemon that will join us. The next island is a farm that lets us grow berries with help from our Mons, increasing the yields. Then we get an island where we can send our Mons to look for treasure, getting us valuable items to sell or use to evolve Mons. There's an island that will let us train Pokemon in the box, letting them level up and gain EVs. And finally, a hot springs island that helps us hatch multiple eggs faster and increase our Pokemon's friendship. The Poképelago is just amazing, making collection that much easier. The EXP share is now obtained way earlier on too, so leveling has never been easier. Sun and Moon were a great return to form, taking advantage of the system, expanding on everything we love about Pokemon, and keeping the best of Gen 6 like the trainer customizations. Sun and Moon are also the first games to outright ditch HMs. Instead, you can now summon rideable Pokemon that perform the function, and you can basically ride them wherever you want. The Pokemon that we get are as follows. Tauros, that makes us faster and can smash rocks with a charge. Stoutland, that lets us search for hidden items. Mudsdale, one of the coolest Pokemon from Gen 7, that lets us ride over tough, rocky terrain. Machamp, who carries us like a princess and lets us push the massive, oversized boulders. Lapras, who provides us a basic surf option that we can use to fish from. Sharpedo, who swims much faster and lets us break rocks on the water like Tauros. And finally, Charizard, who we don't ride so much as use to fly to saved locations. Then, about a year later, we got the next Gen 7 games, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. These games are a bit weird. They're not really sequels to Sun and Moon. They're more like a take on an alternate reality of Alola. More Pokemon have been added to each route. New Z moves have been made, and there are new Pokemon forms, new trials, and in an unprecedented move, there are actually several new Pokemon. A new minigame has been added where instead of taking a ferry from island to island, you can instead surf on a Mantine to get there. There are new sticker collectibles that will let you obtain and use totem Pokemon, and the story has a great focus on incorporating Necrozma into the story. Necrozma even becomes one of the craziest fights in Pokemon history as Ultra Necrozma. Zygarde cells no longer need to be collected. And thanks to the addition of Ultra Wormholes, there are new post-game options. These give you access to Ultra Beast in a new way, along with returning legendary Pokemon to Shiny Hunt. Two of the new version exclusives are the new Ultra Beast, with Ultra Sun getting Blacephalon and Ultra Moon getting Stakataka. Then, once that is settled, the multiplayer area gets hacked, providing access to a unique post-game storyline in Team Rainbow Rocket. Rainbow Rocket is a version of all of the evil team leaders from dimensions where they succeeded in their plans. We will then proceed to face off against these evil team leaders with some high-level Pokemon, and of course, they also use legendaries. This all culminates in a battle against Giovanni at his strongest, with a mega-evolving Mewtwo. While this area and the fights are one-offs, they are still some of the best and coolest in the franchise's history. Heck, Team Skull's base in both sets of games is a town that they have completely taken over, making the team of pushovers actually be badass. I just wish How didn't suck so much. Gen 7 ended up being pretty amazing, and was the last time all 807 Pokemon were legal within a single game. My picks are Sun and Ultra Sun. To wrap off Gen 7, we get the first Pokemon games for the Nintendo Switch. Pokemon Let's Go and Pikachu and Eevee. Full disclosure, I have not played these games, as they moved in a direction to try and appeal much more to the Pokemon Go casual crowd. With some very few exceptions, there are no wild battles, with the focus instead being placed on capturing mons just like in Pokemon Go, with berries serving to make catches easier. Mega evolutions for the Kanto mons do return, and the Alola forms for Kanto mons are also available via in-game trades. The games present Kanto at its easiest, not its best. One benefit is seeing Pokemon in the wild, no longer being fully random. The starter is forced upon you based upon version, being an unevolvable Pikachu or Eevee that can also gain special moves unique to the Let's Go games. HMs are removed, instead giving secret techniques that serve the function of Gen 1's HMs. And surprisingly, there is a special connection to Pokemon Go. See, in Go, there are two new Pokemon in Meltan and Melmetal, being unique in that they can only be caught in Pokemon Go. And Meltan can also only evolve in Pokemon Go. The one best thing of the Let's Go games is that Pokemon will follow behind you, making them feel more alive, and most Pokemon can also be ridden, though for some this is more comical than practical. There's no inclusion of the Sevi Islands, which is a huge shame. Overall, these games never interested me, so I never picked them up. They also launched with a special peripheral that allows you to obtain a Mew, a one-time deal per peripheral, so pretty scummy. This would lead us into Gen 8, which will be covered in the next video, which will be the final video of my Pokemon Retrospective series. Overall, Gen 6 was really poor, but Gen 7 ended up surprising us and being pretty interesting and fun. So, we'll see if they're able to continue with some of the highs of Gen 7 into Gen 8 and 9, and I'll even give you guys what I hope for from the series' future coming up. So until then, like and subscribe. Please check out the rest of the retrospective. And remember, only losers don't like Pokemon.